Hey everybody, pardon me, happy Monday. I hope this challenge has been going well for you. I'm curious to know how it's been. We are week 5 now, so this is the halfway point. I know 10 weeks seems like a long time, but as you can probably tell, at this point there's a whole reason for enjoying taking your time on each of these things. So to recap, we've done each week. The first week was we were going to drink more water. And I'm curious, has that water goal of yours changed or stayed the same? Have you been able to meet it? Has that become more fluid, so to speak? So that was goal number 1. And then number 2, eat undistracted, which is not so easy to do. But then we're starting to build on everything in the series. So each week was something different. Number 3 and number 4, you kind of get a 2 for there. Basically, you know what to eat. It's not rocket science. We all know, protein in like a chicken breast is going to be healthier for you than brisket. It's stuff like that. But the goal with that one was to eat a piece of fruit every day and vegetables with every meal. And I do mean every meal. And so I'm curious, how's that going? I mean, are we still in the phase of, hey, I got it once today? Totally fine. Have you found anything out about yourself that's been really interesting? Because this whole journey here is about curiosity and fun, and remember, no judgment here. This is all supposed to be really interesting, right? And then last week, our goal was to ask ourselves, to eat exactly what you want, whatever you want. And this could be kind of a scary thing, because if you have any kind of disordered eating, it can really challenge you. But I mean, we all do have a little bit of disordered eating. Things rules that we place around food, and I should do this, and I shouldn't do that, and I need this, and all those kinds of things. And with all of the different weeks leading up to this, they really compound on each other. So last week, the thought was, if you have a vice food, go out and get a lot of it. So when you surround yourself with it, it kind of loses its allure. We want what we can't have. Well, if you've got a lot of it, are you really going to eat the bag of Valentine's hearts, like my friend Beth said, or cannolis? Or you might, okay, and that's all right. But if you did that takes a lot of courage to do that sometimes. So if you did that, did you get sick of your vice food? Are you as big as a house now? Were you able to stop? I mean, it's really interesting to notice what goes on, and do you find yourself reaching for those vice foods when you have certain anxiety around something? Or does something trigger that, and do you find yourself realizing that food is not meeting that need? It's all an experiment here. And here's another thought, is that it doesn't have to mean that you are meeting an emotional need with food. A lot of times we do, and we don't actually address it. So that's what these weeks leading up to are getting in touch with your actual hunger cues versus, do I have a cue for hunger that's actually me trying to meet a need with food? As I mentioned last week, it can be very easy to get those confused, especially like when we were a kid. If you were bored, you invented a game. If you were tired, you took a nap, or you threw a fit about it and then you took a nap. When you were hungry, you ate, and when you were thirsty, you got a drink. I mean, it was that simple. When you needed love and attention, you ran to people for hugs. And somewhere along the way, we've gotten that confused with meeting needs for pleasure versus needs, and we've started substituting things. So that's what this has been about. And this week 5, we're still building on those weeks that we have been doing before. So we're still going to try to eat undistracted, have a piece of fruit every day, veggies with every meal, or whatever your goal is now. Getting at least half your body weight in ounces of water, or maybe more or less, depending on you. Eating undistracted, and continuing to eat exactly what you want. Give yourself that permission to eat whatever you want. But this week, I'm going to challenge you to pay attention when you're eating. Stop when you're satisfied. And that sounds simple, just like all of the things in this habit changing course. It sounds simple, but it's simple, but it isn't easy. It's so easy sometimes to get these messages, when we're kids. Oh, you got to clean your plate. There are other people who are starving, and you need to eat all of your food. Well, there's eating past the point where we're not hungry anymore, but we just find ourselves stuffing ourselves because somebody said we should, or we need to be grateful, which means we have to finish our plates. Or I had one client, she couldn't do leftovers, and she couldn't stand, like how big the portion sizes were at restaurants. And then I say, well, box it up and then forget it on the table, which is super easy to do, right? So this week, your challenge is to keep eating exactly what you want, but are you satisfied? So stop eating when you're satisfied. So in the guides here in the group, you'll notice that I put a link to the article, and it's a blog post, and you're just supposed to read one of these a week. Feel free to skip around if you want, but read them all ahead of time, but the goal is to focus on one. So I'm just going to read some of the blog post that is going to lead us through this week. And if you go back to tip number 2, you'll remember you learned to eat undistracted. So your hunger cues should be stronger now. You should be more aware of when you're actually hungry, which in turn means you're actually more aware when you're not hungry, when you've had enough. And there's a difference between being satisfied and being full. Satisfied is subtle. Full is unmistakable. You will blow right past the feel of being satisfied if you eat while distracted and eat quickly. This is where the thought of eating slowly, because it takes 20 minutes for your brain to realize you are full, kicks in. So do you guys notice that? So when you eat slowly, you tend to eat more slowly when you're undistracted, right? Because you're paying attention. And it takes 20 minutes for your brain to realize you're full. So I'm not telling you to stop when you're full. That's when you eat too much. Sometimes we just want to keep eating because it's so good, right? Like, what is the food that you just feel like, oh my gosh, when so-and-so makes this, or this is my favorite thing on the planet, it is ridiculously good. And I don't mean like it's got some anxiety attached to it. It's just like, oh, what's the best meal you've ever had, right? Or sometimes we keep eating because we don't get that particular food very often. To think about Christmas, birthday, Thanksgiving. However, more often than not, it's just mindless eating, or eating to fulfill some other need that has nothing to do with food, but food keeps you occupied, gives you pleasure. And if you don't have pleasure in any other area of your life, or limited areas, food can become a drug and an addictive habit, which we've probably seen that at this point, right? So the challenge is this week, while you're drinking your water, consuming your whole foods, fruits and veggies, and eating exactly what you want, you are to continue to eat undistracted as often as possible and focus on this one thing. How does the food make you feel? When you allow yourself to acknowledge this, you will know when you're satisfied, and you can push the plate away, finished or not, because you can find out you were just eating that much food because your husband, boyfriend, friends, family, whoever conditioned you to eat that much, or everything on your plate when really you don't want it all. And this is the other liberating principle. While you can eat what you want, you don't have to eat it if you don't want to either. I'm going to say that again. It's very freeing to think that, right? While you can eat what you want. You don't have to eat it if you don't want to either. Feels good to give yourself that freedom, doesn't it? So that is this week's challenge, and I hope that really helps. Looking forward to your thoughts. If you would like to share them in the group, we're halfway through. I'm really excited to see that hopefully some of these things are sticking. I know that every time I do this, I picked a heck of a time to jump on board with this, but anytime I actually give myself the chance to do this very thing, that my habits are changed, I have a better relationship with food, and it's much easier to meet your fitness goals when you're not consumed thinking about what you shouldn't eat, when you should do it, etc. Right? So have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week for next week's live coaching call, 10 a.m. See you then.